God of War is a childhood classic of mine. As a kid who grew up with 3 consoles, the GameCube, the PS2, and the PS3, I have a lot of nostalgia for games released for those systems. And one of those series is God of War. I wasn't the only one in the household who actually liked God of War either. My parents absolutely loved the God of War series, and we all beat the PS4 game together. It is still one of the coolest family times we've ever had, and so far we're really interested in what Ragnarok has to offer. But for now, we're talking about the OG, the one that started it all, the one that made me love killing people. God of War 1 and 2 have a very special place in my heart, especially 2, but we'll get to that in another video. God of War 1, while having nostalgia for it, I would say I enjoyed minimally in my childhood. Like, as a kid, I thought it was kind of boring after you kill the Hydra boss, which is the first boss in the game, by the way. I even have a fucking save file from 2020 of me trying to beat the game, and I obviously didn't beat it. This review is actually my first time beating the game, as my parents were the ones who beat it and just told me the story afterwards. But now that I have finally beaten this game after a whole decade of replaying that fucking beginning, seriously, I can predict everything that happens here and I will never be wrong. Is this game still a classic that aged pretty well, or is it a game that was only good in the time that it was born? Let's find out. The story in this game has aged so much better than I was ever expecting it to be.
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me.
The story is very simple and beautifully told with a character that feels very relatable. Kratos in this game is very different from God of War 2 and 3. Because in this game, he's a broken man. A man that committed a terrible sin that ruined his whole life, and he's been suffering with this sin for 10 years. Full of nightmares and unhappiness. Kratos is very depressed, but he's also determined. More so when the gods themselves told him that if he killed the God of War, whose name is Ares, they will forgive his sins. But more specifically, it was Athena who said that, and for some reason, Athena just really likes Kratos. Kratos, in Athena's eyes, is like the promised child of Olympus. Since Kratos wants to finally rid himself of the visions of his sins, he thought this was the best way to do it, and he was determined to see this quest through. And that's what makes Kratos so cool in this game, his determination to finish his mission no matter what obstacles come his way. And the story is a very simple one. A mortal is on a quest to kill the God of War, with the only way to do that is to find Pandora's box, which will give him godly powers beyond his imagination. And once the task is complete, his sins will be forgiven by the gods themselves. Another thing about Kratos is that in this game, he's very calm. Reminds me a lot of how he is in God of War 4, or Dad of Boy as I'm going to be calling him. He's a calm man with a badass voice that only raises it when necessary. Kratos is a formidable motherfucker in this game, but he's not really a monster. He does do some bad things. As a matter of fact, there's even this recurring gag in this whole game where he causes hell for this captain of a ship, and it's fucking hilarious every single time he shows up.
Thank you! Thank the gods you came back for me!
I didn't come back for you.
Let go, fool! You won't drag me down to that cursed river!
There is a task left for me above. I will see it completed.
You again?
I don't care what anyone says, this shit is funny as fuck. But Kratos is a man with no soul, only determination to finish a mission assigned to him. The best part is that it was actually the God of War's fault that Kratos committed the worst sin in his life. The sin that is still haunting him to this day. But first, let's talk about how this happened before we talk about what exactly the sin was. Throughout the whole game, you get little snippets of flashbacks here and there to put the puzzle pieces together and find out what Kratos' sin actually is. And the first puzzle piece is that Kratos used to be a Spartan captain with an army and everything. And he went to war with the barbarians, but his team was getting their asses handed to him, with Kratos about to die as well. But Kratos said something that he would regret for the rest of his life.
Ares! Destroy my enemies, and my life is yours!
Kratos sold his soul to the God of War and was gifted with these chains that would forever be burned into his skin, the Blades of Chaos.
In return, ultimate power.
He would follow Ares' orders over and over and over again, destroying villages after villages until one day, when he was raiding a village, there was an oracle who warned him to not go into the temple. Kratos goes in anyway and slaughters everyone there, with 2 of those being his wife and daughter. Yes, the biggest sin that Kratos has ever committed was the murder of his own family by his own hand.
My wife, my child, how? They were left in Sparta.
And now here comes one of the stupidest parts of the whole fucking story, and it's the fact that Ares, the god of war, talked to Kratos after him killing his family and said this.
You are becoming all I'd hoped you'd be, Kratos. Now, with your wife and child dead, nothing will hold you back. You'll become even stronger. You will become death itself.
Why the fuck would you ever tell him this? This is the stupidest fucking thing in the goddamn world. But besides that, when Kratos left the temple, the oracle coated Kratos with the ashes of his fucking family as a reminder of his greatest sin. Obviously, this fucked up Kratos a lot mentally, and he vowed revenge on the god that took everything away from him. Oh, and Kratos sort of dies when he finds Pandora's box. Literally, Ares throws a fucking log at Kratos and he dies, goes to hell, and then leaves hell through a fucking hole with a gravedigger on the other side who might secretly be a god or something. I have no idea. This shit confused me. But anyway, the final showdown between Ares and Kratos was really great. There was even a part where Kratos was trying to protect his family from the evil versions of Kratos, but in the end, he couldn't stop it, and it was heartbreaking. It was these parts where Kratos showed his vulnerable and emotional side in the manliest way possible.
Not again.
When Kratos finally had Ares on the brink of death, this cool shit happens.
I was trying to make you a great warrior.
You succeeded.
Now that that is over, Kratos asks Athena if he will finally stop having these nightmares and if his sins will be forgiven. But Athena says this.
Athena, rid me of the memories that haunt me still.
You have done well, Kratos. Though we mourn the death of our brother, the gods are indebted to you. We promised your sins would be forgiven, and so they are. But we never promised to take away your nightmares. No man, no god could ever forget the terrible deeds you have done.
What kind of cold motherfuckers are you, shit-ass gods? This man wanted one thing, and you couldn't even give him that? With no other reason to live anymore and the memory still haunting Kratos, he climbed to the tallest mountain in all of Greece and says,
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me. Now there is no hope.
and then he jumps off the mountain. Kratos trying to commit suicide is still to this day one of the saddest scenes in the God of War franchise. It finally felt like Kratos hit the breaking point and just wants to end his 10-year suffering. But oh no, Athena stops him and instead makes him the God of War. Kratos sits in his new throne and the game ends. This ending is very bittersweet because in the end, Kratos did not get the ending he wanted. Instead, he actually got something much worse. He got life. And now he has become a thing that he hates now. A god. The gods wouldn't even let this man end his fucking suffering. You can see in his eyes that he knows this won't make him happy. And he looks frustrated, angry. Kratos in this game is a very tragic character that got dealt a shit hand, which is why the sequels feel that much more satisfying. But shh, I'll tell you why later. This game's story is great, and even though it sounds really short for a 9-hour game, the game tells it beautifully by making his sin a mystery until the very end. I love the story and think it's really great for a hack and slash game, since usually these type of games don't really have that much story, and if they do, they're not really that good. But this game decided to tell a really deep story in a time and age where deep stories weren't really a thing unless your game was called Metal Gear Solid. I love the story and I think it's fucking awesome. Now, I am playing this game on the God of War Saga collection on the PS3, so it gets the PS2 game, gives it widescreen, and ups the resolution, and hot damn, does it look good. For the time that this was made, I'm surprised at how much aged really well. The game only needed an up-res for it to look like an early PlayStation 3 game. That is still fucking cool. This game in its graphics was way ahead of its time. The only thing that I thought looked rough as hell were the in-game cutscenes, which makes Kratos look like sludge. But on the flip side, we got the pre-rendered cutscenes, and they look phenomenal. And they are used a lot, especially with important story beats like the flashbacks. This shit looks great. It looks like something that could be made in the PlayStation 4's time. It looks that good. Look at Kratos, motherfucker. That's the badass that we all know, and I love it. It's also fluidly animated, and that photorealistic look just works with this game. It just does. It just does. And don't even get me started on the set pieces for this game. They did amazingly. And near the end, forget about it. They went crazy with that shit. Whether it's the literal beginning of the game where you are sprinting on broken ships with hydras everywhere. And look how you kill this hydra. That was fucking awesome. This sick ass desert where it's hard to see where the fuck you're going, but that just makes it so cool. It's the utter mystery. And this desert is massive too. I love this place. And oh my god, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. You want me to get started? You want me to get started? The Temple of Pandora, motherfucker. Holy shit. This place is filled to the brim with unique shit that I just gush over. Whether it's this spiky thing chasing you or a whole area dedicated to fucking Hades himself. And spoiler alert, skip to this time frame. 3, 2, 1. You even go to hell. Literal hell. Everything is red. There are literal people falling from the sky into the dark abyss below. This game is just so fucking cool. The cinematography is also great. And now we have the multitude of enemies in this game. And they are all from Greek mythology. There's Medusas, Sirens, Minotaurs, and they all look the part. Kratos even has some moves that the gods gave him, like this cool ass lightning move from Poseidon, an army of dead by Hades, a literal blade from Artemis. If you're a Greek mythology fan or enthusiast, then this game is a literal feast for the eyes in every regard. However, I do have one con, like the blood looking very PS2. They look like splurts and the blood goes away in seconds. I'm not saying become Mortal Kombat or anything like that, but it was a little weird when I was playing and the blood just kind of looked like not blood. Now we have the soundtrack, and it is possibly the most badass soundtrack in the library of PS2 games. This game has a whole war vibe with its music, which is exactly the right mood for God of War. I love the music that they use for the Minotaur boss. This shit made me feel so powerful when hearing it. God of War games never disappoint with the soundtrack. I'm glad to say this game certainly hit the mark. However, the voice acting is a sort of different story. The voice acting is hit or miss. Sometimes it's amazing and voiced really well.
By the gods, what have I become?
And then sometimes it's the goofiest shit I have ever heard.
Ares!
The acting is weird, but the voices are actually really great. Kratos' voice actor is a goddamn icon at this point, and he gets even better as the games go on. But I would be lying if I said I didn't cringe at some of the shit he says in this game, just because his voice delivery was off the mark. But the game's presentation as a whole is just a feast for the senses. The visuals have aged well, and the pre-rendered cutscenes are something to marvel at. And the actual locations and set pieces of this game are very unique and make the game stand out from other hack and slash games without a doubt. And the soundtrack does a great job of making you want to kill people, so it did a marvelous job. The presentation is wonderful. God of War is one of the first games that defined a genre that was so popular that even video game icons like Sonic the Hedgehog would try to copy it. And that genre is known in the gaming community as hack and slashes. Nowadays, hack and slash games are seen in a bad light as people consider them to be mindless fun, able to beat the whole game by spamming one button the whole way through. And while I have played a lot of games where that was the case, I am happy to say that God of War does not really fall into this trap. The enemies in this game do a good job of being unique from one another and making sure to give you a challenge, where you not only have to fight stronger with new moves and such, but you also have to fight smarter by blocking, dodging, chaining combos to do maximum amounts of damage. It all feels fun and rewarding to do. In the beginning, you only have a few combos to do and only one weapon at your disposal, the Blades of Chaos, which I have to say is the coolest weapon in any video game. They are two giant-ass swords that swing around like fucking ropes, making them versatile and have a great amount of range. It's nice to know that you don't have to be right in front of an enemy's face to actually be able to damage them. And the starter combos are not that bad. You have light attacks and heavy attacks, but in the beginning, heavy attacks suck ass. All you are able to do is this downward strike, and that's it. The only time I ever used a heavy attack was this cool combo where you chain a bunch of light attacks and then use heavy for the final command, and it does this awesome ass finisher that does a great amount of damage. You also have a grab, which ends fights very fast and they look fucking cool. If you press square, you throw the enemy. If you press triangle, you rip his body in half. Woohoo! And if you press circle, you just kind of hit them until Kratos stabs him into the goddamn floor. It may be very simple, but as you play the game, you unlock so much more. You get a shit ton of upgrades, whether they're for your Blades of Chaos or powers from the gods themselves. You see that blue meter right next to your health meter? Well, that's your magic, and you waste it by using magic powers which reference different gods, like Zeus's lightning rods which shoot really far, Medusa's gaze which turns enemies into stone, or you can just use the literal best magic ability in this whole game, no doubt about it. Poseidon's Rage. Poseidon's Rage, especially when you upgrade it, is just a very versatile and reliable way to fuck up any enemy that comes your way. When it's upgraded fully, it just cheeses the fuck out of the stronger enemies in this game. It feels so almighty, like nothing can stop you, and holy shit, can nothing stop you when you use this. Now, how do you upgrade your weapon and abilities? Well, when you kill enemies, they drop these red orbs that go into Kratos. This is the blood of your enemies, and the blood is currency to upgrading weapons. Very morbid, but hey. You can even find blood chests around the game to give you even more blood. Same thing with health and magic. There are chests for them around the map that replenish them for you just in case you need them. But in order to actually have a bigger health and magic bar, you have to find these specific chests that have a white handle. They will either have a Gorgon Eye or a Phoenix Feather. When you find 6 Gorgon Eyes, your health increases by 25%. Same thing with your magic when you find 6 Phoenix Feathers. They're not that hard to find, but sometimes you do need to have a curious side to find some of these chests. And since I can be curious from time to time, I found all these eyes and feathers pretty quickly. I had max health and magic before I was even in the final third of the game. Anyway, back to the upgrades for the weapons. What I love most is upgrading the Blades of Chaos because they become way more fun when you upgrade them. I like the Blade of Artemis, but come on. Really? You're gonna pick this over the Blades of Chaos? God, no, don't do that. Since the Blade of Artemis is a separate weapon, you have to choose to either only use the Blade of Artemis or to only use the Blades of Chaos. And I do not regret choosing the Blades of Chaos. When you upgrade them, they give you combos that feel so natural to use to the point where I can't even imagine playing the game without them. Like the heavy combo having more than just the downward strike. Now if you keep chaining the heavy attacks, it does this really strong 3 combo attack that feels so good to use. And now when you parry, you can counter attack, which helped me a ridiculous amount of times. There are even what I call L1 moves, where if you hold L1, which is the block button in this game, and you press either square, triangle, circle, or X, it will do a unique move. I like all these little moves except for L1 circle. That shit never helped me and got me hurt more than I can count. I fucking hate it. But the others are fine enough. I don't really use them much, but they're there if you need it. I actually kind of like L1 plus X because it launches them into the fucking air so you can get a little breather from the enemies on the ground. So yeah, the combat is very simple and easy to understand, but it also has a complex leveling system. What I like about the leveling system is that it incentivizes you to explore around the worlds that you're traveling in to get more blood, plus to upgrade your health and magic bars. The only thing I dislike about the leveling system is that it takes so long to upgrade the weapon. When you are pouring blood into your weapons or abilities, you have to watch the fucking blood being poured into it little by little. It took a minute for me to level up this godforsaken ability. You can't make this shit go any faster, guys, really? And now the final thing, the Rage of the Gods, where you press L3 and R3 at the same time and it activates your inner god, where you are many times more powerful and annihilate anything that even looks even funny. I love using this move and it works really great in boss fights, because while you can still get hurt, you won't be knocked down, meaning you can just keep damaging the enemy until the move actually runs out. It's perfect. But there are a lot of cons with this combat. Let's start with the dodge. As useful as the dodge can be, it can also feel so clunky, and it takes way too goddamn long to get it up. Way worse than anything I've seen in Dark Souls. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but holy shit. Also, sometimes the enemies have such a giant health pool that it feels way too long to fucking kill them. These goddamn Cyclops, bro. These motherfuckers have the biggest health pool I've ever seen in my life, and it takes so long. And I fucking hate these guys, these beasts with their hammers. Oh my god, these guys are annoying as shit. These guys block a lot, and they counterattack you hitting their block by pushing you away and smashing their hammer on the floor. And since I suck at this fucking game, I get hit by that shit a lot. And when you see this thing on top of their head, this circle button, there's a 50-50 chance whether that shit is actually gonna work or not. Sometimes I press circle right on their fucking chest, literal centimeters away from their body, and it won't work. That's not fair. That's fucking bullshit. It doesn't happen to me with the Medusas or the soldiers, so I don't understand why these fucks get the 50-50 treatment. The only reason I even try to do the circle on them is because it gives me more health. And when there are 2 in the same room, oh my god. Oh my god. When I'm hitting one, the other one just comes in and smashes me. Thank you. I don't think these cons ruined the game, but fucking shit do I remember the pain. Now, besides combat, how was the world exploration? Well, this game is pretty linear. You go from point A to point B, but the way that you get there feels anything but linear. The best example I can think of is the Temple of Pandora, the absolute best part of this whole game without a doubt. The Temple of Pandora is filled with secrets everywhere you go, puzzles to complete, and many shortcuts that take you back to the middle of the temple, which is basically a hub. And when you complete all the puzzles and fun areas that are in this temple, you unlock the middle and finally find Pandora's box. This temple is the shit. The many areas feel different from each other and actually feature a bunch of new enemies to fight. I also love the desert, where you have to walk around and find 3 sirens and kill them. But since it's extremely difficult to see, you have to use your hearing for their singing. This was just so fucking fun to do, guys, and the best thing about it is that sometimes I just see them waltzing around. It didn't take me long to figure out that this desert is not that big at all, so I didn't even really need good speakers or headphones for that matter. And holy shit, the fucking Hades portion. This place is fire. It has so many traps and deadly obstacles like disappearing platforms and arrows shooting from the wall, and there's even a maze where the only way to escape is to kill all the enemies in the maze, and it's just so much fun. This game never stops the fun train, and it just gets better and better as it goes on. And like I said, the level design in this game feels anything but linear. It feels very non-linear in the sense that there are so many pathways that you can feel even a little lost on where you need to go. But in this game, I find that more fun than annoying, because I think that this map is designed very well. Every area never stops introducing new things such as abilities, locations, enemies. However, the world, just like the combat, has given me some fucking annoyances that has frustrated me from hell to back. Some of these are nitpicks, but I still hated them. Like climbing ladders. Why is there not a faster way to climb the ladder? Seriously, this shit takes forever. Just get to the top, Kratos. And holy shit, climbing walls. Now you thought climbing ladders was bad, but no, these are worse. The combat is clunky. Climbing down feels so fucking slow. And if that wasn't already worse, climbing ropes. Okay, climbing anything in this game is bad, but the ropes take the cake for the clunky feeling. You can't climb the rope any faster than what you are seeing right now. And the enemies will always hit you because they come from both sides, and Kratos has a weak little kick and a very clunky and hard to use grab move. I hate it. And when you are pushing shit, oh my god! Pushing anything feels like the clunkiest shit in the world. I'm sick of saying clunky. I really am. I'm really sick of that shit. But guys, it matches the shit that you do so perfectly. You have to play it yourself to really understand, because it's hard for me to explain control for video games, okay? But pushing shit? Now this is just terrible. The game does let you kick it so you can go further, but the wind up takes too long and the kick barely even pushes it that far. I also thought this puzzle to get to the Oracle was the worst part in the whole game. I spent 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get to this fucking patch of vines so I could climb it and get to the Oracle. I knew it had something to do with these movable statues, but I had no idea how to use them because they weren't tall enough. I caved in and used the guide, and I hated the answer I was given. I needed to put the statue on top of the other in the most far-fetched way possible to where it looks like a bug. Like something that you probably shouldn't even be able to do in this game. This part sucks and made me waste half an hour of my life for no reason. But again, I don't necessarily think they ruined the positives of the game, because the game has great positives that show the groundwork for a fantastic game. But Jesus, man, there were so many things that did not age well for both the combat and the world exploring. However, the boss fights are really great. The boss fights, while a little simplistic and not that hard to actually beat, are still a buttload of fun. The Minotaur fight was great. I don't understand the hate for it. Especially with that badass music in the background. It just pumps you up while you're fighting. And it was a little challenging to do these quick time events because they give you such little time to do it, so you better have good reaction time and fast hands. Now I'm about to spoil the final boss of this game, so skip to this time frame. 3, 2, 1. Before the final boss, you literally go to hell. And hell is hard. There's fucking vultures everywhere and assholes with bows and arrows. There's this fucking cylinder that you have to climb, and they have blades sticking out, so if you get hit, you fall all the way back down to the bottom and you have to start all over again. And these cylinders are so long because it takes you a good minute to get up there, and these blades! This part was kind of fun though. But as for the final boss itself, well, I love it. Ares is such a threat. This dude has given me more deaths than I had the whole game, and it was so fun figuring out his pattern and how to dodge and block his attacks. Actually being able to hit Ares without getting your shit fucked up is an achievement in of itself. The phase where you keep killing the other Kratos was kind of dumb though. This shit lasted for way too long. Like, it lasted so long I thought I was doing something wrong, but no, it just lasts a long time. But for the first and third stage, the fight is so exhilarating. It feels good to finally stick that fucking sword through his piece of shit throat. This game has a lot of good, but also has a really decent amount of bad. I can see the works for a fantastic gameplay, but there are many examples of awkward and cumbersome gameplay mechanics that feel like they have aged. And they just fucked with the pacing for me, man. I feel like the game has a slow pace about it in both good and bad ways. There are sections of this game where it's extremely fun, with great combat, fun puzzles, and enriching exploration. It's the reason why I love the Temple of Pandora so much. I feel like it's the perfect area in this game. It shows what this game could have been. But I feel like there are so many areas in this game that show the worst parts of the game for me, like boring combat, boring puzzles, and boring exploration. Or they just absolutely frustrate me and make me want to turn off the fucking system. The gameplay could use some fixing, no doubt about it. A lot of fixing, actually, but I still feel like this game does so many things right that I ended up enjoying it a lot. And I look back on it with good memories despite all the cons. In the end, I say the gameplay God of War is good, and I had a great time. The game has so many positives about it. The story is fantastically told and really deep for a hack and slash made for the PS2. The visuals still hold up and blow me away with its amazing locations and cinematography, and the pre-rendered cutscenes. They look like movies. And that soundtrack is a literal war anthem that I wouldn't trade away for the world. But the gameplay has so many little cons that have, well, displeased me. There are some things that have not aged well in the gameplay department, and it can feel very slow and clunky because of that. Exploration can either be a delight or a chore. Combat can either be very complex and engaging, or a boring mess where I'm hoping to God that it will just fucking end. And puzzles can either be really fun or so migraining with the stupidest answer ever, why? The gameplay can be a bit of a mixed bag, but I would be lying if I said that I didn't have fun, because I had a lot of fun with this game. And the story presentation really brought it up for me in a lot of ways. It's a game with flaws, no doubt, but I still really enjoyed it. I'm gonna go ahead and give it the 8 out of 10 rating, and hoping the sequels will do better.